Morning, and first of all, welcome once again to Copenhagen. So the rest of the day we will be seeing the European political family and of course the threat from Russia, Europe's security situation, our need of rearming ourselves is number one discussion, including Ukraine. The President Zelensky will of course participate in our discussions, and beside that, we will also focus on migration. So I look forward in seeing all the neighboring countries here in Copenhagen today.
What is Europe going to do to fight the hybrid threats, not only the drones but also cyber threats and other threats?
Yeah, that is one of the most important questions to ask today, because there is not only hybrid attacks, there is a hybrid war going on in Europe right now. It is part of rearming ourselves, because when I say rearming Europe, it means also make a more robust European society. I think we have to focus, of course, on the cyber attacks and the risk of sabotage and anti-drone capacities, and therefore it was good that we had discussions with the European Union yesterday about building a kind of a drone wall that can be used, of course, especially when it comes to hybrid war. Everything. And the only experts right now in the world when it comes to anti-drone capacities is unfortunately Ukraine, because they are fighting the Russian drones almost every day. Well, we are not moving quickly enough on anything, meaning that I think everybody underestimated how big a threat Russia actually is. Not saying that we haven't done anything, because we are doing a lot, and my hope is that everybody will recognize that we have to look at Ukraine as the first line of defense. So everything we do in Ukraine is defending ourselves in the rest of Europe. So we are doing a lot, but we have to speed up and we have to scale up. I would say that 2035 would be too late. When we are talking about rearming Europe, we have to be able to defend ourselves totally, I would say, at 2030. I think 35 is too late. I think 2030 should be the fixed point, but not meaning that we can wait until 2030, meaning that we have to do everything possible now. And your two questions are interlinked, because we need to take all the experiences, all the new technology, all the innovation from Ukraine and to put it in our own rearming idea. Huh?
Is there going to be any discussion about the Gulf Flotilla and what happened
No, we are going to talk today about our own defense and deterrence, and we are going to talk about migration, how to control our own borders, and I guess we will also talk about economy and competitiveness. Thank you.
Eller hvad? Altså, hvad er det, man synes, det er lov? Så hvis det ikke er against the hybrid threats of Russia.
May I say something coming from a small country? We need politics as the art of possible, instead of politics we are living with, in which the question is who, when and how wins. We need more Kantianism than Machiavellism. Thank you.
Security.
Morning. What does Europe need to do to protect itself from hybrid threats coming from Russia and other allies?
I think we should never forget that our first line of defense must be solid institutions, solid democratic processes, and we need democratic security. Just think 1 second what would happen if we invest in the next 10 years hundreds of billions in hard security, weapons, military system, without to have solid institutions, effective democratic institutions. Imagine what would happen if in 10 years we have, because of democratic backsliding in Europe, an extremist party winning the elections. That's why we need both. And this divide between hard security and soft security is outdated. We need both. And if we invest a lot, and it's right to do this, in military defense, in military systems, we need to invest a lot in democratic security. We need to combat disinformation. We need to fight against foreign interferences. And that is exactly the role that we should also discuss here, and that's what I represent with the Council of Europe. Thank you.
Morning. Is a big part of this meeting about European leaders all sort of holding hands together and moving towards a more hardline policy on immigration together?
Well, yes, we're certainly discussing illegal migration and looking at what further options we can take together. Obviously, I've always argued that working with other countries is always a stronger response. So we're looking at a number of options there. There's a big appetite for it, a number of countries wanting to work with us on what more we can do. So we'll be looking at that. There is also then obviously the question of Ukraine and how we put in more support for Ukraine, put pressure on Putin. So it'll really be migration and Ukraine will be the two dominant issues in the discussions today.
Prime Minister, can I just ask, do you have any reaction to the BBC's investigation into the Metropolitan Police?
I've not yet seen the footage, but I've had it described to me, and it's shocking. And I'm glad the Commissioner is responding. He needs to be very robust in his response. Thank you.
Prime Minister.
Just imagine 1 second what will happen.
We'll say this summit.
Sorry. But once again, as I said, this is also a great opportunity for the country like Montenegro to call, especially for the EU leaders, to finish the front running and to come to an end of the process. Montenegro has started its negotiations back in 2012, so almost 15 years of negotiations. We are a small country, we are a member of NATO, we are fully aligning our foreign policy with the one of the EU. We are already using the euro, we are the most advanced institutionally candidate country, and we have set a very clear target. Montenegro to become the member of the EU as a 28th member state by 2028. I think this is what I'm going to call today, and especially when it comes to the drafting of the accession treaty. I believe that would be a signal not only for Montenegro but for all the candidate countries that the accession process is real, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel.
The region of the Western Balkans is increasingly facing hybrid threats from Russia and other state actors as well. What can the partner countries do here together with the EU to better prepare against those cyber attacks and other hybrid attacks?
Well, there are countries within the Western Balkans that are part of NATO. That is Montenegro. Montenegro has become the part of NATO back in 2017. And as you can imagine, NATO is the best possible security umbrella for the country like Montenegro. Naturally, we wouldn't be able to face many of the challenges on our own, and this is why NATO, but also the partnership with a number of countries within the EU is very important for us. Thank you very much.
There is serious kind of patient safety and trust issues with the system. What's your proposal to kind of tackle that? And then separately on the budget, you've been making the case, and the government has been making the case that the one-off measures are stopping. Do you think people will get that on the day?
Well, in terms of the medical issue, I think the Medical Council has a clear responsibility here, and that systems have to be very robust and resilient in respect of tracking what's happening in other countries, particularly in the United Kingdom or in the European Union member states, or anywhere for that matter. There has to be very robust and resilient mechanisms in place before someone is put on the register here and before somebody is allowed to practice in Ireland. And I certainly would have concerns arising from this morning's article in the Irish Times. In relation to the budget, again, we do need to get on a pathway of sustainable budgets. There will be significant increases again in public expenditure this year. We've already outlined unprecedented investment in capital and in infrastructure projects, which is vital in terms of water, utility, in terms of energy, the grid, in terms of public transport, rail and roads, and in aspects of health, particularly digital health. So there's huge investment going in, and will be. But yes, we are pivoting more towards capital investment because that is necessary because of the increase in our population and also the necessity to catch up infrastructure-wise in the country. That said, current expenditure will grow, but we are endeavouring to create a sustainable pathway in terms of public finances into the future. That is important also.
What do you think the Danish government...
Politicizing the defence forces, proposing a photo with defence forces chief for including members of the force in video clapping him during a 10K run. Has he made a mistake? Does he keep making mistakes? Are you worried about that? And can I also ask you about a story last evening that suggests that Catherine Connolly attempted to hire someone who had been just got out of jail for a gun offence conviction?
I think that latter one is very serious in terms of someone who apparently, from the journal article, had served 4.5 years in prison for possession of firearms, and also a member of an organisation that did everything to undermine the Irish peace process. That would indicate a very serious lack of judgment, and I think Catherine Connolly needs to clarify that in its entirety and be fully transparent in respect of it. But it is a very, very serious issue as far as I'm concerned, and I think most people would be, given the circumstances as reported by the Journal yesterday. That was, in terms of the photograph, I mean, those issues can happen accidentally, and I don't think there was any attempt in any way to politicise. It was taken down very, very quickly, and these things happen. And of course, these things, I think you're overplaying it, quite frankly, absolutely. This campaign is going well received on the ground and getting a good response, and we're very happy with the responses getting across the country.
What do you think the Danish government should do about the drone attacks here in this country?
I think the Danish government is handling this very sensibly in our view. Obviously, as I said earlier, the discussions yesterday centred on what is emerging as a very broad pattern of behaviour, and the member states yesterday are in no doubt in terms of the broader issue and the recklessness now we have.
I would like to make 3 points. That first of all, today's focus is on Ukraine and European security. For us, it's quite clear, which is also obvious, that Russia is the one who escalates in NATO territory and also in Ukraine. Russia must be pressured to the talks and peace. Something that is politeness for us is weakness for them. Second is to increase the pressure. That means new sanctions package must be strong, concern energy, everything else, and also dealing with shadow fleet, which is also an environmental problem, and getting fresh cash to Putin. It's estimated that it's a little bit below half of his war chest is coming from shadow fleet. So this is a big problem to having this kind of shadow fleet going. And third is obvious also that the European defense industry and the defense capabilities must increase because, to be honest, we have a big capability gap in the defense area, in drone area and so on. But we also have an opportunity because Europe's very well based on industry. So these are the main topics today. Thank you. Have a nice day. Thank you.
ჩვენი მონაწილეობა ამ სამიტში და ის შესაძლებლობებს. როგორ ერთმანეთს
ძალიან მნიშვნელოვანი ფორმატია, სადაც ევროპელ ლიდერებთან გვაქვს საუბრის საშუალება, გუშინაც ახსოვს გქონდა საშუალება, რომ არაერთ ლიდერს გავსაუბრებოდეთ და ყველგან საუბრობთ, რა თქმა უნდა, ჩვენს ეროვნულ ინტერესებზე, საუბრობთ ჩვენს ხედვებზე იმასთან დაკავშირებით, როგორ უნდა წავიწყოთ წინ ევროინტეგრაციის მიმართულებით, რაც არის ჩვენი საგარეო პოლიტიკის ერთ-ერთი უმთავრესი პრიორიტეტი. გუშინ მქონდა საინტერესო გაცვლა მოსაზრებების, იდეების ევროპელ ლიდერებთან და აქტიურად გამოვიყენებთ დღესაც ამ ფორმატს იმისათვის, რომ მაქსიმალურად ვისაუბროთ ჩვენს ეროვნულ ინტერესებზე, ჩვენს ევროპულ პარტნიორებთან.
განსხვავება გექნებათ პანელურ დისკუსიას და რაზე გააკეთებთ აქცენტს?
თემა არის ეკონომიკა და ევროპის ეკონომიკური ინტერესები, მათ შორის დაკავშირებადობის კუთხით, მინერალების კუთხით და თქვენ იცით, რომ საქართველოს ამ კუთხით აქვს ძალიან სერიოზული პოტენციალი, მათ შორის სერიოზული სატრანზიტო პოტენციალი და რა თქმა უნდა, ამაზე გვექნება საუბარი ჩვენს ევროპულ პარტნიორებთან.
Peace was achieved in Washington. What it will be?
Ce ați discutat ieri și dacă ați prezentat și dosarul anulării alegerilor?
Da, da. Ieri a fost Consiliul European, deci liderii celor 27 de țări din Uniune, și discuția a fost pe apărare. După cum știți, există mai multe programe de finanțare, dar acum ne ducem către un plan de acțiune. Și asta a fost discuția. Iar azi o să fie o reuniune a statelor europene în Uniune sau nu, da? Cu o adunare plenară și în cadrul ei mai multe discuții, una pe Republica Moldova imediat după alegeri, una pe droguri și una pe dezinformare și pe influență rusă, și în cadrul acestei discuții o să prezint materialul pe care Procurorul General l-a prezentat public. Și în afară de asta o să mai avem întâlniri bilaterale cu prim-ministri din Suedia, din Belgia și din Armenia. Ăsta e programul zilei.
Din dosarul pe care îl veți prezenta, care sunt influența Rusiei?
Da, este cel pe care l-a prezentat Procurorul General acum 2 sau 3 săptămâni și care, bun, el ia el ia și finanțarea, ia și încercările cu gruparea Potra de a destabiliza, dar cel mai important este partea de influență pe rețele sociale, cu acel mecanism pe care vi l-a prezentat Procurorul General, cu 3 etape, site care se duce într-un alt site care aparent este, cum să zic, legat de viața curentă, medicina alternativă, în care găsești o știre surpriză pe care te duci, faci click, te duci într-un alt site și de acolo te duci într-un site clonă al unei televiziuni cum e a dumneavoastră sau în orice caz un site foarte respectabil și se pare că știrea aia chiar e adevărată. Deci asta este una și după aceea modul în care a operat pe TikTok astfel încât Georgescu, hashtag-ul Georgescu să fie foarte sus în topul mondial.
Prezentați și soluțiile pe care le-ar putea avea autoritățile.
O să fie o discuție despre ce face fiecare pentru a combate asta.
A fost o solicitare a partenerilor să prezentați acest raport sau inițiativa României să împărtășească?
E inițiativa noastră, da, pentru că a fost o întrebare și acum avem răspuns.
Despre zidul dronelor, acea idee de a constitui un zid al dronelor în restul Europei, în țările de celălalt estic, a discutat?
Da, a fost multă parte din discuția de ieri a fost pe subiectul ăsta, da.
În ce constă? Pentru
moment discutăm de o schiță a unui plan de acțiune. Deci mai trebuie să avem planul de acțiune și după aceea eventual lideri care să coaguleze. Da, există nuanțe în discuție, există nuanțe, dar deja nu mai este o chestiune de vecinătate cu Rusia, pentru că ați văzut evenimente care s-au întâmplat la aeroporturi care nu sunt, care nu am văzut drone care au parcurs din Rusia sau din Belarus până la respectivul aeroport. Deci este o amenințare cu care ne confruntăm în momentul ăsta și chiar dacă au fost nuanțe pe discuția asta, se merge pe conceptul ăsta de zid antidron.
Presupune să ia România pentru constituirea...
Nu. Aici a fost o discuție politică care s-a dus în ultima ei parte și pe partea de finanțare. Pe chestiunea operațională sunt miniștri de apărare care se întâlnesc mult mai des decât se întâlnesc liderii țărilor. În câteva luni. În câteva luni. Mulțumesc. Sorry? We had only one, and we tried, didn't keep it. But if we will have another ones, yes.
The United States are now providing satellite intel for the Ukrainian missile strikes. What do you make of that? Do you see President Trump changing position once again?
I think, we all know that at the end of the day that whatever happens in Ukraine has to be with the support of the U.S. And I think everyone here in Europe has looked positively towards any such developments from President Trump. So I'm going to say I'm positive moving forward, yeah.
But is it a new president, you think?
New president? Okay.
But a new position for the president.
I think we have definitely seen positive developments from the U.S. in the last days. So I'm hopeful, yes. Thank you.
Very good. Good morning. I'm happy to be here. I want to thank Denmark for organizing this. I think it is now 7th European political community. Of course, with everything going on now, when it comes to our collective security, how to keep our skies safe, how to make sure that Ukraine stays in the fight as strong as possible now, but also to be in the best possible position when hopefully one day peace talks will start. It is important to come together, to chart a course. And the dinner last night was very successful, hosted by the King and Queen of Denmark. We discussed a lot of issues, and we will continue doing that today. So thank you for being here, and myself, happy to be here also.
Secretary General, what are the things that...
A bit louder, sorry.
What do you say to those to say Europe are not going quickly when it comes to policy defence?
Well, but look at the NATO summit in The Hague. We committed to this staggering 5% of defense spending. Look what happened with the airspace incursions in Poland and Estonia. We reacted as NATO and also Poland and Estonia as allies exactly as we and they are supposed to do, which is to take out the threat, assess whether the threat was at such a level that more had to be done or that we could escort, in the case of Estonia, the airplanes out of Estonian airspace. So this is exactly what we trained and prepared to do. The Russians know this, and it was important that we showed it worked.
Secretary General, what can...
No.
What can Ukraine contribute to better protect Europe against hybrid threats?
Oh yes, Ukraine is, if that is your question, I understand your question correctly, Ukraine is of course a powerhouse when it comes to innovation, insights, for example when it comes to anti-drone technology, anti-cyber threats, etc. And the fact that Ukraine is now helping in Denmark, in Poland, NATO overall, to basically share its insights gained over more than 3.5 years of this terrible, full Russian onslaught, unprovoked, is very important. And we have this joint center, as you know, Ukraine, NATO, in Poland, JTEC, where we capture all the lessons Ukraine is able to share from their insights on the war effort.
How do you think the Danish government...
in order to hit the targets?
We never speak about intelligence.
How do you think the format still relevant when there are so many different countries, even countries like Georgia, were close to Russia?
You gave your answer to that question. And the answer to the question is, it is exactly the strength of the EPC that in addition to the NATO summit, in addition to the European Council meetings with the 27 EU leaders, that we have this format to come together, to chart a course, but also to dialogue in bigger and smaller formats. Final question.
Yes. Do you think the Danish government has prepared itself enough for the threat from Russia?
Absolutely. I have the highest confidence in Denmark. You are really leading the pack when it comes to defense spending, when it comes to making sure that Ukraine is in the best possible position to defending yourself. So yeah, my answer is yes. Thank you so much.
What are the responsibilities with the drone war?
Well, there are very dire lessons to learn from Ukraine, and we are learning from Ukraine, and we're also practicing, I would say, Nordic and NATO solidarity. So when Denmark made requests to Norway to have anti-drone detection capacity, it was a very obvious decision for us to provide that equipment.
Are EU countries too weak because you have Norway, you have UK, you have Ukraine helping to secure the space here in Denmark? Is the EU too weak?
It just illustrates that we have to work on this. Had this been an issue 5 years ago, you would have not thought about it. But I think drones, you see what role they play in the war in Ukraine. You see how they create hybrid uncertainty in countries throughout Europe. So we have to improve our detection capacity. We have to improve our cooperation between police and defense, and we are working on that.
To what extent will Norway be part of the SAFE instrument, the SAFE program provided by the European Commission?
We are working to be part of that.
Is Norway going to contribute to the drone war? Is Norway going to contribute financially to building the drone war?
Yes, we will be. We are in touch with the Commission to be part of that initiative. Yes.
Does Norway see value in these summits, the format of it?
Yeah, I'm Norway, not being member of the European Union, we think that this broad European platform is useful. It's not a forum for decisions, but meeting and discussing and exchanging. Especially one issue now, which is emerging in addition to Ukraine, is how we together fight organized crime. And we all have in our countries now even younger people committing even more serious crime. And they're all backed and initiated by criminal networks working on the internet. And we cannot let criminal gangs have an advance on governments on this. So this is one theme we will discuss here today.
How do you think the Danish government should prepare Denmark for future drone attacks?
Well, I think now Nordic countries, European countries are collaborating on how to understand this drone threat. Many inhabitants in our countries have drones for private purposes. And so this is mixed with the challenge we may have from external actors creating uncertainty in our countries. So this drone phenomenon flying in our skies have to be treated with more equipment to detect, possibly take down, and we have to work both on capacity and methodology. So here I think we should take advantage of us being democratic countries. We can do it in NATO, we can do it in European settings, and we will certainly discuss it today.
But it seems as though Denmark weren't prepared for those drone attacks.
Well, I cannot comment on that, but it was very obvious when Denmark asked Norway for assistance, we were happy to provide what we had.
What did you give to Denmark?
Well, I will not comment on the specificity, but we provided equipment and we provided personnel. And they are put on a Danish command while they are here.
So will you take it back after this meeting?
We will. We will need it in Norway.
So do you please have a comment at all on Israel's interception of Gaza aid boats overnight and the arrest of several of those trying to deliver a desperately needed aid to Gaza?
Well, it illustrates that we need to get desperate needed aid to Gaza. And I think the main thing here is to get in aid through the established channels and let the UN and the well-trained organizations distribute that aid. And then I just have to say that Israel should respect, international law and treat this in a cautious way. Okay.
You're not part of the EU are now building the drone wall. Where does it leave you?
You are correct. We are not part of the European Union, but we are part of Europe. So on these issues of defense and security, we have very close cooperation. So on this strengthened cooperation against unwanted drone activity, we will be part of that.
Are you coming with even more money to support Ukraine after the criticism of lack of support?
We provide this year almost $8 billion in 25, same sum for 26. I think that's a very significant sum. I just met President Zelensky today. I think what you see now in support to Ukraine is that it is gradually becoming more and more Northern European and Nordic. And we will continue to maintain a high level, but we also need to get other countries to chip in.
Do you agree with the criticism that you were a bit too slow?
No, I don't agree with that. We have been consistent from the start with very substantial support. And we are also very focused on providing what Ukraine asks for what they need. And that is what we will continue to do.
Jeg vil gerne spørge på dansk, svare på norsk. Den danske statsminister har sagt op til topmøderne her, vi befinder os i en tid, der minder om tiden op til 2. verdenskrig, mellemkrigstiden. Er du enig i den analyse?
Enhver tid får sin historiske karakteristikk, og jeg tenker at vi skal forstå vår tid ut fra den tiden vi nå lever i. Som vi sier, historien gjentar seg aldri, men den kan rime, den kan gi noen leksjoner. Og jeg er mest opptatt av at vi nå forstår hva denne tiden består i. Og der handler det om å gi støtte til det landet som angrepet i en fullskala invasjon, Ukraina. Det handler om å samarbeide mellom demokratier mot sammensatte hybride trusler. Og så handler det om å finne løsninger for at landene igjen begynner å snakke med hverandre. Det vår tids utfordring.
Det kan virke som om, at vi i Europa et skridt bagud hele tiden. Hvordan kan vi komme til at komme et skridt foran? Hvordan kan vi sørge for, at vi ikke, for eksempel i forhold til dronetruslerne, de hybride trusler, at vi godt nok rustet, garderet til at kunne håndtere det, der måtte komme, de trusler, der måtte komme i fremtiden?
De hybride truslene utfordrende, for de nye, og de visker ut skillet mellom et angrep og en usikkerhet. Våre borgere har jo veldig mange droner. I Norge registrerte vi i fjor over 1000 droneobservasjoner, og de fleste av dem sivile nordmenn som uforsiktige med droner nære flyplasser. Men det skaper en usikkerhet som også eksterne aktører kan bruke. Jeg tror demokratiene sterke. Hvis demokratiene samarbeider, har god informasjon, snakker sant om utfordringene, så vi sterkere enn de autoritære som forsøker å splitte oss.
Det så ikke ærgerligt, at vi ikke medlem av EU i disse dager og disse tider?
Norge må gjøre det beste ut av sin situasjon. Jeg var tilhenger av at Norge skulle bli medlem av EU. Norske folk stemte annerledes. Og da må vi bruke de mulighetene vi har til å samarbeide nært med nordiske og europeiske partnere. Og Norge skal være Jeg tror det slik som Ursula von der Leyen sier, at Norge EUs beste venn. Det får være det beste vi kan få til.
Regarding increasing military spending of the EU members and downgrading.
Well, I think the reaction leading up to this European Council yesterday and today's EPC has shown the absolute...
I have one short message to my colleague.
We can work together. But of course we have to see that we need to learn more. We need to be faster. We need to be better prepared. We need to defend. We need to deter. But we also need to detect. And I think we can learn a lot from Ukraine in its drone expertise, in also understanding that if there are threats, we need to be able to counter them.
Yes, but shouldn't you have known, you mentioned yourself, Ukraine, that's been going on.
Mówiono o tym, co dla Polski jest tak ważne od wielu miesięcy i związane jest z wojną w Ukrainie, ale przede wszystkim zagrożeniami, które bezpośrednio dotykają Polski ze strony naszych agresywnych sąsiadów, Rosji i Białorusi. To nie są przyjemne tematy, jak się domyślacie, ale mam jako polski premier satysfakcję, że ten polski punkt widzenia na temat znaczenia obrony wschodniej flanki stał się już powszechnym punktem widzenia. Już nikt nie kwestionuje tego, że nasza wschodnia granica z Rosją i Białorusią jest granicą całej Europy, całego NATO i że wszyscy muszą wziąć na siebie odpowiedzialność, także finansową, organizacyjną za ochronę naszej wschodniej granicy. I dlatego oczywiście my jesteśmy realistami i ja uprzedzałem naszych partnerów, że my nie mamy jakichś oczekiwań, że powstanie na przykład ściana dronowa, czy ten mur dronowy na naszej granicy, który w 100% wyeliminuje jakiekolwiek zagrożenia. Pojawiły się głosy, na przykład kanclerz Merz mówił, że on uważa, że ta idea drone wall nie gwarantuje nam 100% skuteczności. Moja odpowiedź była bardzo szczera i dość, powiedziałbym, tak brutalna w swojej szczerości. Jeśli ktoś będzie szukał 100% metod, 100% gwarancji bezpieczeństwa, to niczego nie znajdzie. My musimy dzisiaj jako NATO, jako Europa szukać metod maksymalnie zwiększających nasze bezpieczeństwo. I te inicjatywy, o jakich rozmawiamy i jakie de facto zostały przyjęte, niezależnie od głosów sceptycyzmu czy ostrożności. A więc drone wall, czyli ten mur dronów, który ma wielowarstwowo chronić naszą granicę przed naruszeniami przestrzeni powietrznej, przed aktami agresji i Eastern Flank Watch, czyli system patrolowania wschodniej granicy Europy. To będzie się wiązało w przyszłości z nakładami, z inwestycjami, także w nowoczesne technologie. Polska de facto zaczęła to już robić, ale dla mnie jest ważne, że staje się to wspólnym zadaniem i wspólnym obowiązkiem dla całej Europy.
Czy Francja i Niemcy odebrały to jako konkurencję dla ich projektu takiej tarczy europejskiej? Ten mur dronowy, to spotkało się z tego powodu z oporem?
Nie. Nikt w ten sposób tego nie formułował. Jak Państwo wiecie, jest sporo tych inicjatyw multilateralnych czy bilateralnych, które grupuje po kilka państw na rzecz obrony tej przestrzeni powietrznej, tej europejskiej kopuły. Pierwszą taką inicjatywą była inicjatywa, jaką zaproponowałem Francuzom i Niemcom w 2014 roku, kiedy zaprosiłem kanclerz Merkel i prezydenta Hollanda wtedy do Warszawy w czasie pierwszej agresji rosyjskiej na Ukrainę, żeby robić taką europejską tarczę powietrzną czy kopułę, przynajmniej w tej części Europy, i wtedy bez reakcji. Trochę udawali wszyscy, że tak, ale de facto nie podjęto żadnych działań. Niecałe 2 lata temu zaproponowałem wspólnie z greckim premierem Mitsotakisem, wysłaliśmy taki wspólny list do wszystkich liderów, aby poważnie pomyśleć o paneuropejskiej obronie przestrzeni powietrznej. Reakcja była już bardziej, powiedziałbym, konkretna i pozytywna, ale dopiero tak naprawdę to bezpośrednie zagrożenie prowokacjami rosyjskimi chyba obudziło resztę Europy i dzisiaj nikt tego nie kwestionuje. I nikt nie kwestionuje tego, że ta polityczna odpowiedzialność spoczywa na wszystkich. Natomiast wiecie, będzie konkurencja. Jeden ma jakiś biznes, jeden ma jakąś swoją produkcję, jeden kraj jest bardziej zaawansowany. Każdy będzie myślał o tym, żeby chronić bardziej swoją przestrzeń. Ja to wszystko rozumiem, ale z naszego punktu widzenia to, co jest ważne, że wszyscy wiedzą, że wschodnia flanka jest odpowiedzialnością wszystkich, także Niemców i Francuzów. Tego nikt nie kwestionuje.
A co dziś? Jakie najważniejsze zadanie na tę europejską wspólnotę polityczną?
Jak wiecie, cały czas też i to w kuluarach ta dyskusja była prowadzona również, w jaki sposób wesprzeć Ukrainę po oświadczeniu prezydenta Trumpa, które wszyscy czytamy mniej więcej tak samo. Ja o tym też już informowałem, że z jednej strony ta zmiana nastawienia na bardziej, powiedziałbym, proukraińskie ze strony prezydenta Trumpa daje powody do optymizmu, że to wsparcie dla Ukrainy będzie coraz intensywniejsze. No ale też wszyscy wiemy, że nie od dziś Ameryka oczekuje dużo większej aktywności też finansowej Europy. Więc nie oszukujmy się, jeśli chcemy, żeby Ukraina dalej trwała w oporze przeciwko Rosji, a Polska jest krajem, który przede wszystkim powinien dbać o to, żeby Ukraina była w stanie dalej bronić się przed Rosją, to musimy także umieć zorganizować masywną akcję finansową. Znaczy, mówiąc krótko, jeśli mamy kupować, a tego oczekuje nasz amerykański partner, jeśli mamy finansować broń amerykańską dla Ukrainy, to trzeba to zacząć organizować. O tym też rozmawiałem z przywódcami i sekretarzem generalnym NATO.
Jeszcze jak pan premier skomentuje kwestię przedłużenia do kwietnia kontroli na granicy z Niemcami? Cały czas jest zagrożenie przepływem migrantów?
Zdecydowaliśmy się na wprowadzenie kontroli na granicy z Niemcami ze względu na te przypadki przekierowywania. One nie były liczne, ale jednak bardzo irytujące i budziły wiele emocji także po naszej stronie. Przesyłania migrantów, tych nielegalnych migrantów na polską stronę, więc to się skończyło. Mamy tutaj pełną jasność. Jak wiecie, metoda, jaką przyjęliśmy, ona była nakierowana na to, aby wyeliminować tę przepychankę na granicy dotyczącą właśnie nielegalnych migrantów. Ta sprawa została właściwie już załatwiona. Znaczy, mówiąc ludzkim językiem, Niemcy nam już nie mogą przesyłać niezgodnie z przepisami żadnego, nawet pojedynczego nielegalnego migranta. Więc tę sprawę udało się załatwić. Natomiast te kontrole nie są jakoś przesadnie uciążliwe z punktu widzenia normalnego ruchu. Bardzo o to zadbaliśmy. Rozmawiałem o tym z kanclerzem Merzem, żeby obie strony robiły to w taki sposób, żeby to w możliwie niewielkim stopniu dotknęło przede wszystkim ludność po obu stronach granicy, dla której przekraczanie granicy jest czymś codziennym. I wydaje się, że ja nie mam sygnału, żeby to jakoś dramatycznie wpłynęło na losy ludzi mieszkających po obu stronach granicy. Także tak, będziemy nadal korzystać z tej kontroli, żeby już nie wrócił ten mechanizm przesłania do Polski migrantów.
Czy rozmawiał pan z Viktorem Orbanem, który publicznie pana skrytykował przed szczytem, że pan próbuje wciągnąć Unię także w wojnę z Rosją?
Jeśli chodzi... Z Viktorem Orbanem mamy problem, znaczy ja nie mam osobistego problemu, znamy się długie lata, siedzimy obok siebie na Radzie Europejskiej a to, że jesteśmy wobec siebie krytyczni, jeśli chodzi o relacje z Rosją, to wiadomo od lat. Pytanie o Viktora Orbana i o wojnę, ponieważ Viktor Orban uważa, że nie ma wojny, ja uważam, że jest wojna. Pytanie prawdziwe to nie jest to pytanie, czy jest wojna, czy nie ma wojny. Pytanie to prawdziwe jest, kto w tej wojnie jest po czyjej stronie. Bo wojna to jest coś czarno-białego. Jak jest wojna, tak jak jest wojna między Rosją a Ukrainą, to pytanie brzmi, po czyjej jest tej stronie. I wiadomo, po czyjej stronie jest Polska, wiadomo, po czyjej stronie jest NATO, Europa i chyba wiadomo, po czyjej stronie jest Viktor Orban, niestety. No, ale nie przeszkadzało nam to w normalnej rozmowie. To staram się w sposób cywilizowany rozmawiać z naszymi partnerami w Europie i ja umiem powstrzymać emocje.
Czy jakaś reakcja polskiego rządu na zatrzymanie polskiego posła przez władze Izraela? Poseł Sterczewski.
Oczywiście przyglądam się tej sprawie. Konsul generalny jest już w miejscowości Ashdod, a więc w tym miejscu, do którego Izrael skierował uczestników tego rejsu. Będziemy traktowali posła Sterczewskiego tak jak każdego innego obywatela. Znaczy może liczyć na pomoc konsularną. Państwo polskie jest od tego, żeby opiekować się w trudnych, krytycznych sytuacjach każdym polskim obywatelem. Nie dlatego, że jest posłem, nie dlatego, że postanowił uczestniczyć w tej morskiej demonstracji przeciwko Izraelowi. To jest decyzja pana posła Sterczewskiego i moim zadaniem nie jest oceniać jego motywację, tylko zapewnić opiekę konsularną, tak jak każdemu innemu obywatelowi w tej sytuacji. Ale jeszcze raz przestrzegam wszystkich polskich obywateli, a posłowie powinni być tu szczególnie czujni, jeśli nasz MSZ apeluje o niepodróżowanie w miejsca krytyczne, bo to później rodzi konsekwencje, to dużo kosztuje, ewakuacja. To prosiłbym, żeby przestrzegać tych wezwań.
Jeszcze pytanie o politykę krajową, o te doniesienia medialne odnośnie tego, że miałby pan być niezadowolony z poczynania ministra Kierwińskiego i działalności Służby Ochrony Państwa. Tam jakieś zmiany kadrowe miały nastąpić. Może pan to jakoś skomentować?
Tak. Nie zajmuję się oceną działania służb. Ja nie narzekam w żaden sposób na ochronę, wzmocnioną ochronę w związku z niejasnym charakterem tego incydentu. Służba Ochrony Państwa staje na głowie czasami. Ja się czuję za bardzo chroniony, a nie za mało chroniony. No, zdarzają się czasami takie dziwne sytuacje, ale nie. Jak ja jestem z kogoś niezadowolony, przepraszam, nie chcę, żeby to zabrzmiało arogancko. Jak jestem z kogoś niezadowolony, to dziękuję mu za współpracę i proponuję komuś innemu to zajęcie. Więc proszę, nie trzeba spekulować. Ja jestem tutaj bardzo konkretny w tej sytuacji.
Prime Minister, are you satisfied with the outcome of the talks on the so-called drone war yesterday?
Sorry, what?
Are you satisfied with the outcome of the talks about the drone war yesterday?
For me, it would be really important to have maybe more concrete decisions, also financial decisions, but this is the beginning of this process. And yes, I am satisfied because no one questioned the very idea of having this drone wall. Today you have at least a name for this initiative. but I am absolutely sure that this is just the first step. And some comments, some interventions, for example, there's a little bit skeptical opinion about effectiveness of this drone wall made by Chancellor Merz. I fully understand this intention. I mean, for me it would be also very important to have 100%.
A magyar érdekek védelmére.
A nehéz nap volt tegnap, és a mai nap sem lesz könnyű. Lényegében minden javaslat, ami az asztalon van, az háborús javaslat. Adjunk több pénzt az ukránoknak háborúra, adjunk fegyvert az ukránoknak háborúra, gyorsítsuk fel a belépésüket az Európai Unióba. Szóval minden a háborúról szól. Szóval én úgy látom, hogy az Unió elhatározta, hogy háborúba megy. Ráadásul tegnap még be is mutatták a háborús stratégiát, hogy hogyan kell legyőzni az oroszokat. Hát borzongató, ez rossz Magyarországnak, szerintem rossz az Európai Uniónak, de a nyomás nagy. Szóval én úgy látom, hogy én a Fidesz elnökségének azt fogom javasolni, hogy indítsunk Magyarországon aláírásgyűjtés Brüsszel háborús tervei ellen. Mert minden erőnkre szükség lesz, hogy ki tudjunk maradni ebből a háborúból.
A vétó kérdésében voltak társai, akik mennyire volt először is komoly ez a kérdés tegnap?
I have no problem with our Western partners. It's more or less we think about this conflict.
Maybe it's a bit too slow. That we are.
Everything is a little bit too slow in Europe because we are very, it's not an authoritarian regime. The European Union has some political procedures. It means problems also. We are not as fast as I said, authoritarian regimes in Russia, in Belarus. Everything is simpler than in Europe politically. But I prefer our system anyway. Okay, maybe not fast enough, but at the end of the day, we will be the winners here. I am absolutely sure.
To nawiązując do tego, że w ciągu tych 3 tygodni uda się ustalić tę mapę drogową, która ma być na szczycie w Brukseli, bo przecież wczoraj rzeczywiście nie było ustaleń ani co do tej mapy drogowej.
Tak, nie taki był cel wczorajszego spotkania. Bądźmy też uczciwi wobec naszych wszystkich partnerów. Wczorajsze spotkanie miało charakter przygotowawczy, wymiany poglądów i dużo tematów poruszaliśmy, także zamrożone aktywa rosyjskie. Jest duży niepokój niektórych państw, szczególnie Belgii, jeśli chodzi o ewentualne prawne konsekwencje takiej decyzji. Ja tu nie narzucam się ze swoją opinią, my nie jesteśmy w strefie euro, Polski żadne negatywne konsekwencje bezpośrednio by tu nie dotknęły, więc nie chcę narzucać naszej opinii. Nasze stanowisko jest jasne, użyjmy wszystkich możliwych środków, a byłoby idealnie użyć rosyjskich środków przeciwko Rosji w tej wojnie, ale tutaj też kropla drąży skałę, musimy być cierpliwi, ale
jakby się udało, ale teraz się nie uda. Prime Minister.
Sorry, why do you
Prime Minister Orban.
Victor, they want.
Yeah. Sorry, can I ask a question?
They want picture together with.
And to compare the idea, who's the threat right now in Europe? Who's the main threat against Europe right now?
Provocation.
No, it's a real question. Please, Prime Minister.
So the real danger, economic stagnation and losing competitiveness. This is the danger.
Not Russia?
Sorry. Not Russia? No, we are stronger than... So, okay, guys. So we are stronger than Russia. Make some comparison and base your opinion on the facts. So we have more than 400 million people, yeah? Russia is 130-something. Look at the European GDP. It's like that. Russia is like that. We spend altogether 27 more on military spending than the Russians. So why we are afraid? We are stronger than they are. The question is whether we have...
I love you when you use my argument
whether we have leadership to come together and to defend our interests together. That's what we should do anyway.
I'm sorry.
Can I ask one more question? Why do you think that Russia-Ukraine war is Europe's war?
Something obvious in Poland. It's nothing abstractive, after the latest events in Poland, I mean, the violation of our airspace. This is something very concrete, and it's the Russian aggression against Ukraine is clearly also a form today as a political aggression, but it's more and more evident that sometimes it's also a kinetic action, like hybrid war, shadow fleets, violation of our airspace, violation of our border with Belarus. This is everything. We have some incidents, some very negative acts, every single day. And this is why, and of course, the possible consequences of this Russian victory will be dramatically dangerous for Europe and for the whole West. For me, it's something obvious. Yeah, this is also our war. It's in Poland. No one has doubts on this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ott szintén egy hangúság kell. És sem mondtam, nem járulok hozzá, tehát ez meghal. Georgia.
We are always here asking.
Yeah, the Prime Minister has a meeting with me today.
Yes, what can you say about this meeting?
So what else we can do together, Prime Minister?
Also, how Brussels treats Georgia.
So first of all, Georgia is the most successful, the best successful European country. I don't know any other country which is so successful as you are. Political stable, economy is just rocketing. So we admire and we study how you are so successful. So I think Europe needs successful countries because unfortunately many of us are unsuccessful. The economy does not work here. It's rather paralyzed, it's stagnating. So we need countries like Georgia to join.
So how fair are some leaders, how they treat Georgia sometimes from Brussels, I mean?
You know, Brussels is not the headquarter of fairness, definitely not.
Okay, what about Azerbaijan?
Igen. Tessék? Nincsen napirenden. Előkészítés alatt áll, de nincs azon a szinten az előkészítés, ahol...
They want picture together with something.
Azerbaijan is the golden reserve of the European Union, because we have a lot of difficulties with energy, and you are very rich and you are very cooperative. We have a stable and good leadership, so Azerbaijan is the golden reserve to the European Union. Lesz olyan is, igen, lesz.
Prezidente, vakar sakėt prieš eidamas į susitikimą, kad norit pajusti temperatūrą, kokia yra už stalo dėl įšaldytų Rusijos turto. Kokia ta temperatūra? Belgijos premjeras sako, kad vis tik tai reikia valdyti rizikas, yra rizikų privačiam sektoriui. Kaip jums pasirodė ta diskusija vakar?
Iš tikrųjų, situacija yra tokia, kad Belgijos premjeras išvardina bent keletą punktų, dėl kurių jis mato, kad šitas klausimas yra problemiškas. Be kita ko atkreipia dėmesį ir į tai, kad Rusija bando koncentruoti mūsų vakarietiškus aktyvus ir pervesti pinigus į specialias sąskaitas tam, kad pasiruoštų tokiai kontrapriemoniai, tai yra europietiškų lėšų ir verslo investicijų įšaldymui Rusijoje. Na, žinote, tokiu atveju aš visada sakau štai ką, juk Lietuvos verslo ten beveik nebeliko, reiškia mums ir žalos padaryti neįmanoma. O tos šalis, kurios politiškai, retoriškai šnekėjo apie tai, kad reikia nubausti Rusiją, bet jų verslas toliau savo vykdė verslo operacijas, jos dabar atsidūrė tokioje pažeidžiamoje būklėje. Taip kad, taip sakant, medalis turi dvi pusės. Bet pats finansinis instrumentas, turint omenyje tai, kad karo kaina Ukrainai yra 100 milijardų eurų per metus, 50 milijardų Ukrainos ekonomika sugeba generuoti pati, bet 50 milijardų skylė, kurią turi padengti tarptautinė bendruomenė. Tai reparacijos paskolos yra vienas iš būdų to pasiekti. Kai dar kartą kartoju, kad tai nėra tiesioginis įšaldytų aktyvų paėmimas, tai yra aktyvų laikymas tam atveju, kuomet Ukraina nesumokės paskolos ar reikės naudotis paskolos grąžinimo garantiją, arba Rusija atsisakys mokėti reparacijas, tada, kai karas baigsis. Tai tiesiog apdrausta paskola, toks yra jos tikslas ir aš manau, kad viskas čia būtų tvarkoje, jeigu ne vis dėlto kol kas vienybės nebuvimas ES šeimoje. Šiuo klausimu kol kas vienybės nėra, bet tiesą sakant, aš nebūčiau toks pesimistas, nes aš matau tik tai, tokią vieną šalį, kuri taip jau visapusiškai mato čia problemą.
When do you think a drone wall could be ready, and do you think the UK could be invited to participate in it?
It would be great to see United Kingdom in this collab of a drone wall. Of course, a drone wall is a very ambitious project. And we have to keep in mind that 3,000 kilometers along the border, this is really a big challenge to build very comprehensive or very strong wall. We in Lithuania, we go a little bit different way. We try to protect those areas or those parts of our border which are most exposed or which are most vulnerable, because we see that the drones are coming usually from Ukraine through the territory of Belarus. Belarus is trying to shoot them down too, but not in all cases successfully. And then they come to European Union, to Baltic states first of all, and to Poland. So we have to protect the areas which are close to our capital, because they are on those trajectory of the drones coming from Ukraine. And it costs, of course, quite sufficient amount of money, but it's anyway cheaper than to build the wall or the system which could protect every inch of Lithuanian soil. Because in that case, probably we should spend more than our GDP.
But when do you think this concept could actually be ready for Europe?
It's a good question, but I think if this will start from the selective approach by building this drone wall, I think this is possible to build. At least the first stage could be completed until the next multi-annual financial framework, and maybe in the next financial document of European Union, it will be there will be money specially dedicated for that purpose to go to another stage, second stage of building of the drone wall. But this is really the business we cannot complete over the night.
And will you actually invite the UK to take part?
We would be more than happy to see our friends from United Kingdom participating, and I hope that they will consider. Because, you see, initially we thought that this is the threat for the countries which have direct border with Belarus, Russia, which are really directly on the front line. Now the recent events in Denmark show that even countries which do not have the border with the Russian Federation are exposed. No matter is coming from the, let's say, shadow fleet in the Baltic Sea or from another sources, but all countries are exposed to this threat. United Kingdom not excluded. So I think this is the answer.
Why is it so hard for the EU to agree on an architecture for the 140 billion euros and the frozen assets? Can you tell us more about this, please?
We arrived a lot of buildings, monuments. My team told me also bridge been illuminated in Ukrainian national colors. It speaks really volumes. Thank you for this. You are with us from the very beginning of Russian aggression, full-scale war. And today we will discuss a lot of things. I think that the most important that today Europe really faced this drone threats, and Ukraine has relevant experience in it because of the war. Maybe the biggest one because of this, the biggest one in the world, and of course we will not. We will not stay aside, and of course we will support Denmark because they are our friends. Thank you so much.
There's reports in the American media today that America's going to provide with long-range intelligence.
No, we spoke with the United States. We are very thankful to President Trump for this dialogue. Last time we had very good meeting, very productive dialogue, and we spoke about long-range missiles, long-range weapon. I mean, we spoke about it, so we will see. Everything depends on his decision. It's significant. I'm sorry.
And yep. Thank you.
En nuestro continente, en nuestro proyecto común que es la Unión Europea. Con lo cual, bueno, nosotros nos sumamos a esta propuesta lanzada por el gobierno francés, la aplaudimos, la respaldamos y participaremos de ella, con independencia de que efectivamente esa coordinación la llevamos desarrollando durante mucho tiempo. En segundo lugar, yo creo que hoy es un día importante porque porque hemos conocido unos datos de afiliación a la Seguridad Social que son realmente positivos y que demuestran la solidez, la robustez y la fortaleza del crecimiento económico en España y cómo se traslada eso en una fuerte creación de empleo. Una fuerte creación de empleo que además va acompañada, gracias a la reforma laboral, a una caída muy importante de la temporalidad, que siempre había sido uno de los principales lastres del mercado laboral en nuestro país cuando nos comparábamos con otros países europeos, y además con una traslación, por tanto, hacia los contratos fijos, pues muy relevante, ¿no? Son más de 4 millones o casi 4 millones los empleos fijos como consecuencia de la reforma laboral, que se ha transformado en empleos fijos como consecuencia de la reforma laboral, y yo creo que eso demuestra muchas cosas. Demuestra primero el éxito del país en un contexto tan difícil, que España continúe avanzando, continúe liderando el crecimiento económico en la zona euro y además de las principales economías avanzadas de la zona euro, y además lo haga con estas tasas de creación de empleo y de bajada del paro. Yo creo que demuestra pues que España avanza, que España lidera y por tanto que es un éxito de país. Primero de los trabajadores, trabajadoras, de las familias, de los empresarios, de las empresarias y lógicamente también de las instituciones públicas, y el acierto de la política económica que venimos desplegando desde hace 7 años a esta parte. Finalmente, esta madrugada no hemos podido dormir mucho, hemos estado muy pendientes lógicamente de lo que le sucedía a la flotilla en su llegada a las costas gazatíes. Hemos estado en contacto permanente con ellos, como ha dicho el ministro de Exteriores Álvarez. También hemos trasladado al gobierno israelí el que es necesario que protejan los derechos de no solamente nuestros compatriotas, sino todos los integrantes de la flotilla. En todo caso, por supuesto, desde España vamos a garantizar esa protección diplomática y, sin duda alguna, la protección de los derechos que puedan ser menoscabados por la acción del gobierno israelí. Lo he dicho en muchas ocasiones, la flotilla no representa ningún peligro para el gobierno de Israel y, por tanto, esperemos que no represente ninguna amenaza tampoco para la flotilla, la acción del gobierno de Israel. Y en segundo lugar, que lo que está haciendo esta flotilla es suplantar algo que está impidiendo Israel en Gaza, y es el que Naciones Unidas, en particular la agencia que opera en Gaza desde hace muchísimos años, que es UNRWA, pueda desplegar toda la acción humanitaria, toda la solidaridad humanitaria que todos los Estados miembros y todas las sociedades del mundo pues están manifestando con la tragedia que se está viviendo en Gaza. Con lo cual, estamos muy atentos, hemos estado toda la noche pendientes de esta cuestión y vamos a, lógicamente, ofrecer esa protección diplomática y la protección de los derechos de nuestros compatriotas.
Es una violación de la legalidad internacional, como dice Sumar, presidente.
Vamos a estudiar todos los aspectos de esta cuestión. Para nosotros ahora mismo lo más importante es la seguridad de nuestros compatriotas, el que puedan regresar pronto a casa, a su casa, a España, y a partir de ahí, pues evidentemente estudiaremos cualquier tipo de acción.
¿Y qué le dice a los miembros de esa flotilla que creen que han sido abandonados por el gobierno?
El gobierno, por supuesto, ha estado con ellos desde el primer minuto. Hemos estado en permanente contacto con ellos. Hemos también reforzado su protección enviando pues una presencia de nuestras Fuerzas Armadas precisamente en ayuda humanitaria y también en potencial acción de rescate. En definitiva, creo que hay que reconocer y aplaudir esa solidaridad que expresa la sociedad española y otras muchas, porque estamos hablando de una flotilla que representa más de 40 nacionalidades, en concreto 45 nacionalidades, más de 1000 integrantes, ¿no? La reconocemos, la aplaudimos, pero en todo caso ahora lo que más nos importa es la seguridad de nuestros compatriotas. Y posteriormente, pues evidentemente, podremos tener ocasión de hablar de estas valoraciones.
Presupuestos, presidente, ¿en qué punto está la
una rueda de
negociación?
prensa. Estamos en ello. No hay ninguna novedad en el sentido de que nosotros vamos a cumplir con nuestra obligación constitucional. Los presentaremos y esperemos que sean pues unos mejores presupuestos que los que tenemos. Pero en todo caso, volviendo al desempeño económico y a la creación de empleo que tiene nuestro país, representamos el 30% del crecimiento económico de la zona euro. Es que tenemos más de 22 millones de afiliados y afiliadas a la Seguridad Social. Es que tenemos 4 millones millones de personas que, como consecuencia de la reforma laboral, han visto que sus contratos precarios se han convertido en contratos fijos. Es decir, España avanza, España lidera, y yo creo que eso es un éxito de país, también del Gobierno y, por supuesto, de su política económica. Pero, evidentemente, presentaremos nuestros presupuestos y esperamos contar con el apoyo de la mayoría parlamentaria. Vamos a trabajarlo con mucha humildad, con mucha capacidad de diálogo y de negociación y de acuerdo, como siempre hemos manifestado.
El Ayuntamiento de Madrid ha lanzado una iniciativa para informar a las mujeres sobre lo que llaman un trauma posaborto. No sé si sigue esta información y qué le parece.
Bueno, he estado un poco pendiente de esta cuestión. A ver, yo creo que, desgraciadamente, un derecho, como es el derecho a la interrupción voluntaria del embarazo, está siendo menoscabado, está siendo instrumentalizado. Hay muchas mujeres que se sienten privadas de este derecho como consecuencia de un dogmatismo ideológico, de un sectarismo político, de instituciones que van más allá del Ayuntamiento de Madrid. Hay muchos gobiernos autonómicos dirigidos por el Partido Popular, con el apoyo de la ultraderecha, que en el ámbito de la interrupción voluntaria del embarazo están simplemente recortando ese derecho, derivándolo a clínicas privadas, en lugar de poder garantizar ese derecho en el Sistema Nacional de Salud Pública. Y esto es algo que lleva pasando de manera recurrente. Lo que sucede en el Ayuntamiento de Madrid es extraordinariamente grave y demuestra cuán profundo es la alineación del Partido Popular con Vox en todo lo que tiene que ver con derechos, en sus recortes, en su retroceso, en su regresión. Y desde luego yo lo que sí que puedo manifestar, en este caso las mujeres de nuestro país, es que el Gobierno de España va a ser garante, una vez más, de que este derecho se preserve y no sea recortado ni menoscabado por la acción política de ayuntamientos que claramente, por su sectarismo político, por su dogmatismo ideológico, en lo que están es en la regresión de derechos tan fundamentales como son los derechos de las mujeres.
Una última cosa,
Muchas gracias, de
¿Ha
verdad.
estado en contacto con las autoridades?
Sorry? You have to stay in there. Ah, sorry.
Okay, everybody. Gonna start now.
Fremsøg. Altså aftale.
Jeg skal stå på ingen tanker. Good morning, everybody. We have a lot to do today, so I would like to start as planned. And first of all, I would like to give all of you a very warm welcome to Copenhagen. For the last few months, there has been much talking about peace in Ukraine, with meetings and pre-meetings and briefings about the meetings. And meanwhile, Russia continues its brutal attacks. It must be clear to everyone now, Russia will not stop until they are forced to do so. And they are a threat, not only to Ukraine, but to all of us. Today, we have one major task ahead of us. We have to make our common Europe so strong that war against us becomes unthinkable. And we have to do it now. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends and colleagues, it's a great pleasure to welcome you here in Copenhagen. As you all know, this very forum was founded as a response by you, Emmanuel, to Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022, created to unite all of us. The purpose has not become less urgent or less relevant today. We have important discussions ahead of us, and none more urgent than the issue of European security. Dear Volodymyr, for almost 4 years, you and your countrymen has been defending Ukraine against a merciless full-scale Russian aggression. You are fighting with outstanding determination. And right now you are fighting for European security, holding back Putin, defending all Europeans. You have done what no one thought possible, and you support our steadfast support. We are around 50 leaders here today from all over Europe. We represent very different countries. We have our own interests, our own headaches, and our own wishes for the future. I know that for some of you, the threat from Russia is very clear and very present. For others, it still seems further away. But none of us can no longer be naive. The war was never just about Ukraine. It is about Europe. All our nations, all our citizens, our values, and our freedom. And please just take one look at the history of our continent. From the expansion of the Russian Empire to Soviet tanks rolling across several borders during the Cold War, shattering hopes of freedom. And recent history tells us the exact same story. So why shouldn't it happen again? Russia is now converting into a war economy, using every opportunity to intimidate, to threaten, and to divide us. Unfortunately enabled by China, with soldiers from North Korea and drones from Iran. And I see no signs that Putin and Russia's imperial fever dream stops with Ukraine. On the positive side, many European nations are ready to do what is necessary to support peace in Ukraine and in Europe. But peace with Russia can only be achieved through strength. We have to strengthen Ukraine and weaken Russia with more sanctions. We have to be able to finance the armed forces in Ukraine. All of us have to deliver more weapons, more ammunition, and we have to do it faster. Nowhere it will make a greater impact for European security than at the front lines in Ukraine. It's not charity what we're doing in Ukraine. It is a direct defense of our continent. And at the same time, we have to rearm ourselves, Europe. I know that almost everybody have increased their military budgets massively over the last years. And we have taken very important steps in the European Union, in Europe in general, and in NATO. So, in other words, we are on our way, but we have to move much faster. We have to learn from Ukraine, your sense of urgency, building an incredible defense industry in just a couple of years. We must take that lesson and we have to speed up. But building a stronger military is not enough. We need more than that. Because Russia has intensified its use of hybrid means in Europe. And we face an enemy that uses all kinds of tools. One day it is military drones. Another day it's migrants being pushed across the borders. They are targeting critical infrastructure. We see the fight with misinformation, all with the purpose to create uncertainty and lack of trust, and attempts to interfere in democratic elections. Security is, of course, not only a question about military means. It is a matter of our hearts and minds. And in a time where democracy is under pressure around the world, we need to show that we deliver for our societies. That we, as political leaders, are able to help our people to tackle their challenges in everyday life. Our citizens need jobs and economic security. They need health care, education for their kids, affordable food, opportunities for their future. That is why we need to build a stronger Europe economically as well. We have to create the jobs for the future. We have to reduce our dependencies. We have to invest in new technologies and source the critical raw materials that are necessary. And, by the way, we have to take much stronger action on migration. We have to strengthen our borders. Uncontrolled migration is changing our societies, and it is our citizens that pays the price. Who can enter and stay in our country? It has to be a democratic decision. Before I pass the floor, there is one thing I want all of you to remember. Back in 2022, when this political family was established, when Russia launched its full-scale invasion in Ukraine, Putin wanted at least three things. He wanted to capture Kiev, he wanted to overthrow the Ukrainian government, and he wanted to tear Europe apart. Today, after almost 4 years of full-scale war, after spending billions of dollars sacrificing thousands of Russian lives, Putin has not succeeded in any of that. The war is a Russian failure. First and foremost, thanks to you, Volodymyr, to every brave Ukrainian man and woman fighting for our freedom, but also to every nation supporting you. Europe is strong when we decide to be, and we need to make it much stronger. So therefore, dear colleagues, welcome once again, and let us use this opportunity to provide the next concrete solutions to show the way forward for Europe. Thank you, and I would like to pass on the floor to you. Antonio.
Eh bien, bonjour. Tout d'abord, je veux remercier Mette Frederiksen pour nous accueillir ici, à Copenhagen, pour cette 6e réunion de notre communauté politique européenne. Et tout d'abord, je veux féliciter Maia Sandu, la présidente de Moldavie, par l'écrasante victoire que les forces démocratiques et pro-européennes ont obtenue dimanche dernier en Moldavie. Cette victoire, c'est une victoire pas seulement de Moldavie. C'est une victoire de la démocratie qui a démontré sa capacité de résister à les manœuvres d'interférence des forces étrangères. Et une victoire des libertés des Moldaves de dire qu'ils veulent choisir et peuvent choisir son destin. Et c'est aussi une victoire de notre Europe parce que le choix était très clair dans la direction européenne de la Moldavie. Je veux aussi féliciter le président d'Azerbaïdjan et le Premier ministre d'Arménie. Je crois que la paix que vous avez obtenue, c'est un grand moment pour notre Europe. Et ça démontre que c'est possible de bâtir la paix et qu'il faut qu'on fait notre travail pour la paix. C'est pour ça qu'on soutient l'Ukraine. Parce que soutenir l'Ukraine, ce n'est pas soutenir la guerre. C'est soutenir le droit de l'Ukraine à une paix durable, à une paix juste. Et c'est pour ça qu'on doit se mobiliser tous et toutes pour continuer à soutenir l'Ukraine. Du point de vue militaire, du point de vue politique, du point de vue diplomatique, du point de vue économique. Parce que ce qui est en jeu en Ukraine, ce n'est pas seulement le droit de l'Ukraine à être un pays libre et souverain. C'est en fait le droit international. C'est en fait les valeurs inscrites dans la Charte des Nations Unies qui sont en cause. Le droit à un pays souverain, à l'intégrité territoriale, au respect des frontières internationalement reconnues. Et c'est pour ça qu'on doit se bâtir. Parce que si la force de la Russie veut vaincre, tient une victoire en Ukraine, aucun pays au monde peut rester sûr sur la capacité du droit international faire face à la menace de la force et à la menace de la guerre. C'est sûrement pour ça que dans toute notre réunion, sécurité et résilience ont été toujours présents dans notre ordre du jour. Et toujours, une fois encore, l'intérêt des différents leaders sur les sujets de sécurité et résilience a été tel qu'on a même besoin d'organiser 2 tables rondes sur ces sujets. Et ça veut dire qu'il nous faut faire un effort pour bâtir une défense collective, pour assurer la sécurité des Européens, pour finir avec la guerre en Ukraine, pour finir avec la menace de la Russie sur notre continent, parce qu'il nous faut concentrer dans d'autres enjeux, notamment le développement de notre continent et de nos sociétés. Sécurité, ça veut dire aussi sécurité économique. Il nous faut sécuriser notre chaîne de valeur, l'accès à matériel primaire critique, mais aussi la sécurité de notre chaîne de valeur. Et évidemment, on ne peut pas ignorer des sujets comme migration qui sont au cœur de notre débat dans notre société. On est une plateforme informelle et on veut le rester. Mais si on regarde ce qu'on a fait dans les 5 dernières réunions, on peut identifier que dans ces cadres de la communauté politique européenne, on a plusieurs projets. Le premier a été la coalition F-16 qui a mobilisé un conjoint de volonté et des pays pour soutenir la capacité de défense aérienne de l'Ukraine. On a travaillé beaucoup sur la cybersécurité. On a travaillé beaucoup aussi pour supporter Moldova. Et je crois que ça, c'est quelque chose qui nous honore à tous. Et aujourd'hui, la France prend une nouvelle initiative de bâtir une coalition contre la drogue. Ça, c'est une question centrale qu'on doit prendre en grande attention. Parce que c'est une demande qui est soutenue par un grand problème de santé publique, mais qui en fait engage tout un réseau de criminalité qui défie la sécurité de notre continent, de nos sociétés, et qui fait accroître la violence dans notre société. Donc, je crois que cette formule de la communauté politique européenne, qui ne veut pas remplacer ni notre alliance militaire, ni l'Union européenne, ni remplacer le Conseil d'Europe, ni de remplacer d'autres institutions où on est ensemble, c'est une communauté qui est la démonstration qu'on a une volonté politique d'ensemble. Et ça, c'est très, très, très important, et plus important que jamais dans le monde d'aujourd'hui, où plusieurs acteurs internationaux essayent de bouleverser l'ordre international. Quelques-uns par la force de la guerre, d'autres mettre en cause les règles du commerce international, d'autres mettant en cause des engagements collectifs qu'on a besoin pour faire face au changement climatique. Mais nous, ici, tous ensemble, on peut dire que ceux qui sont dans l'Union européenne, ceux qui ne sont pas dans l'Union européenne, ceux qui veulent rentrer dans l'Union européenne, ceux qui ont voulu sortir de l'Union européenne, ceux qui ne veulent pas ni rentrer, ni rester, ni être en l'Union européenne, tous ensemble, on est Europe et ensemble, on veut travailler ensemble pour la paix, le développement et la prospérité de notre société et de nos citoyens. Donc, merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, dear Mette. I think everybody is very, very glad that how you hosting us here in Copenhagen. Thank you very much.
Over to you, Volodymyr.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, dear Matt. Dear friends, we are all now in a new reality, and everyone, I think, understands this, even those who may not want to admit it yet. The recent drone incidents across Europe are a clear sign that Russia still feels bold enough to escalate this war. And it was never just about Ukraine. Russia has always aimed to break the West and Europe in particular. Today, their strategy is simple: to divide Europe, to ignite arguments, to prevent us from finding common ground. And I believe we must do the exact opposite of what Russia expects. We must act together, and we must act with strength. First, our guys are already here in Denmark, and there are experienced Ukrainians who know how to detect and shoot down attack drones, and they have already begun deploying their mission, and we are ready to share this experience with you, partners, and this is just the beginning, the first step on the path toward an effective drone wall to protect all of Europe. Please, let's work together on coordinated solutions that will make this happen. Second, when we talk about the drone wall, we are talking about all of Europe, not just on one country. If the Russians dare to launch drones against Poland or violate the airspace of northern European countries, it means this can happen anywhere. In Western Europe, in the south, we need fast and effective response and defense forces that know how to deal with drones. And please keep joining the Pearl program. It really helps our defense. Some countries are already part of it, thank you, and it's very important that others join too. This program supports not only us, but also strengthens ties between Europe and the United States of America. Third, we must remember that the root of all these problems is Russia's war. Russia still has the resources to keep fighting, and that's not right. But we know the right steps. A 19th package of sanctions against Russia for the war is urgently needed. We also need to seriously think how to truly down Russia's entire oil trade infrastructure, because that's what fuels their war machine. Right now, we are seeing that even tankers already under sanctions are still being used by Russia. That has to stop. And let's also place more sanctions against captains and crews of shadow fleet vessels, as well as against the owners of the relevant companies. And we need to think about placing sanctions on Russian oil terminals and the rest of their mainland infrastructure. We should also support President Trump's call to stop buying Russian oil here in Europe. It's short-sighted to go against the USA. And the guys from Hungary need to hear this clearly. Energy from the US and other partners can fill the gap on the European market. Next, we need to finally complete 100% the work on security guarantees. We have already done a lot, and I'm grateful for that. Thanks to you, dear leaders. And now we need to put everything on paper and fully prepare every detail. Security guarantees for Ukraine can already work now. They directly support our army. But overall, every nation in Europe deserves real security guarantees. The model of the security guarantees that works for us will work for you too. And we propose to eventually expand all effective models to others. And finally, I want to congratulate, as speakers before me, I want to congratulate Maia Sandu on the victory. My congratulations in Moldova's parliamentary elections. These were very, very important elections. Europe has won. Moldova has won. And thank you to everyone who helped to secure fair elections. Now it's time to move forward. Supporting Moldova, Ukraine, and the Western Balkans on their path to EU membership is critical. We need real progress. Ukraine has completed the screening process. We are ready to open Cluster 1, and this must be done just as agreed. This will definitely strengthen the overall situation. Thank you so much. Slava Ukraini. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Volodymyr. And now we are trying something new in this format. So therefore, I will ask Prime Minister Keir Starmer and President Emmanuel Macron and President Maia Sandu and Prime Minister Donald Tusk to go to the podium, where Keir will lead us through a discussion between our four colleagues.
Yes, I think, is this on? Right, let us make a start, and it's really good to be here, colleagues. Volodymyr, it's fantastic that you are here, and as Meta said, this has been nearly 4 long years for brave Ukrainians fighting, and I, for one, have been particularly struck with the severity of the attacks on civilians, particularly in recent weeks and months, on a daily basis. So it's very good you're here. Maia, it is fantastic that you are here. A great victory for you in Moldova, but also a massive victory for Europe as well in the face of interference from Russia. So it is really, really good to have you on the panel here this morning. And I think, Meta and others, we've seen in recent weeks the appetite that Putin has to not only rain down on Ukraine, but also to take action and to interfere right across Europe in many different ways, whether that's in relation to our airspace, whether it's cyber or other attacks that have been going on. They are unrelenting, and they show an appetite to continue this, and we must fight it with everything that we have. And it's a reminder for all of us, Vladimir, that this is not just a question of Ukrainian sovereignty, it's a question of the values and freedoms of all of us, particularly in Europe, and that we are all in this fight in relation to the Russian aggression. We've done a lot of work on the Coalition of the Willing. I'm not going to go through that here, other than to say that we must always remind ourselves that the Coalition of the Willing, the security guarantees, what we've done to try and ensure that if there is a ceasefire, it is just and lasting, mustn't sort of seduce us into thinking that the work is over in terms of supporting Ukraine now. And so the first point really is to be really clear that we must continue that support for Ukraine, notwithstanding the work of the Coalition of the Willing. And that means putting Ukraine in the strongest possible position. And that then means more on air defences, more on long range and anti-drone attacks, and of course the work that we're doing on the reparations loan in relation to the Russian assets, which has been really important work led very ably and very smartly in terms of the progress that we're making there. And of course, as we continue to strengthen the position of Ukraine, we must do that in conjunction with and alongside the work we're doing with President Trump and others in this. The second thing is that we must always look to strengthen NATO. We had an excellent summit earlier this year, Mark, very, very successful, where I think NATO emerged at the end of that summit stronger than we went in, more united, with real resolve and focus. And we need to keep that because, you know, whether it's air defences in Poland, where we, the UK, sent planes across, whether it's the work that we've had to do in the last week or so here with NATO allies working with you to counter the drones. That means that we're here on a beautiful day having our meeting, which wasn't necessarily guaranteed this time last week. I think that shows that we have to make sure that through the framework of NATO we support each other against this aggression and interference. And then finally, we must keep up this pressure on Putin. The economic pressure is having an effect, and we need to continue that pressure through further sanctions, bearing down on energy in particular, and on the shadow fleet. So on all those fronts, supporting Ukraine in the fight, absolutely clear in our support of NATO allies and others, and then bearing down on Putin. So I wanted just to open with that. Emmanuel, can I come to you next, and then we'll come around the panel.
Thank you, Keir. Thank you very much, Mette, for once again organizing this summit. And let me just tell you, before we jump to the situation in Ukraine, as you mentioned and framed it, Keir, that it's clear that this format as well is the right place to deal with so many conflicts or hard situations, and we are focused on the Ukrainian situation, given the aggression war launched by Russia. But Antonio was right as well to highlight the peace treaty signed between Armenia and Azerbaijan. I think this is a great achievement, and I want to congratulate the two leaders. And we are very as well focused on what's happening in Caucasus and Western Balkans. And this is the solidarity of this continent. And once again, given this, I would say, holistic approach we have to do for this common place we have, Europe, the elections in Moldova were a great achievement. And Maya, once again, congratulations, because this is a test case for our resilience. We will revert on these topics later today. But the capacity to resist to the interferences and the misinformation coming from Russia was clearly at the core of your campaign. and you resisted, and I think it's very interesting for all of us as well to have your clear feedback and the lessons learned from this victory, because this is something which is useful to be implemented by the rest of the club, because now we have interferences in all elections. And I can tell you, because I had interferences in my 2 elections, 2017 and 2022, and quite efficient, I have to say, but not successful, but less aggressive than the one in Moldova. As for Ukraine, Volodymyr made it very clear in his statement, and I think the conclusion of your initial speech, Mete, was very important. We are at a moment where Russia is not clearly getting its main objectives. It's not the 3-week special operations. They didn't get Kiev. They didn't change the regime. I would add to that, 2 great friends joined NATO, which is a big strategic defeat for Russia on top of it. Now the question is how, not just to sustain the war efforts, but clearly change the dynamic and help Ukraine in this context. I have to say, altogether, we worked very hard during the past few months, and I think the situation is much better today than it was at the beginning of the year. At the beginning of the year, our fear was to have a sort of very rapid peace, and we had some doubts about the level of support of the United States. Now, first we built the coalition of the willings. A large part of you are member of it, and I think this is a great achievement of the past few months, and you mentioned it here. But we had the clear planification of commitments the day after a truce or a peace treaty or a ceasefire to have a robust and long-standing peace. And it's very important in terms of sustainable support to the Ukrainian army and the level of commitment we are ready to provide. Second, we managed collectively to re-engage with the United States. And the statements of the President of the United States last week are a huge change if you compare them with your presence in the Oval Office a few months ago. So, I mean, it's very important because for me it's a concrete case of countering the misinformation spread by Russia. No, Russia is not winning. No, Ukraine is not losing this war, and the situation is very different. And I think there is the same approach now regarding the conflict. And it's part as well of the frustration of the US president vis-à-vis the absence of commitment of Russia. And President Trump took several initiatives to re-engage with President Putin and to go to the table of negotiation. And it's now clear that all these words where President Putin was saying, I'm ready to negotiate peace, were not totally a sincere commitment. So now the key points for all of us are, number one, to follow and to step up and to scale up in terms of support vis-à-vis Ukraine. Air defense systems, drones, and I mean the level of innovation and efficiency of the drone system is very impressive, and Volodymyr was very clear on the level of support and financing they need in order to be efficient on the ground. And this is one of the best ways to change precisely the situation and gain some territories, recover some territories. And third, long-range missiles. So let's focus on these 3 categories, as you mentioned as well here, in terms of financing, capacities to deliver, and we are working hard to accelerate as well the key deliveries in that, but accelerate as well the common projects and the common financing on these 3 issues. In parallel, in order to put pressure on Russia, in order to create more incentives to come back at the table of negotiations, we have our sanctions, and the 19th sanctions package proposed by the Commission was a very important one. We coordinate, we step up, and we are more and more efficient. And I want to insist on the shadow fleet, as you mentioned. Because following our key figures, today 30 to 40% of the war effort is financed through the revenues of the shadow fleet. It represents more than 30 billion euro. So it's extremely important to increase the pressure on this shadow fleet because it will clearly reduce the capacity to finance this war effort for Russia. So we put a series of sanctions on them. I mean, on the boats and on the insurance companies, harbors, and so on. But now we have clearly a way to increase the pressure by coordinating a holistic approach on this shadow fleet. And what we did in the past few days with our Navy, just in order to make controls and to make sure that it was a vessel we identified, a series of vessels, and to be sure they were compliant with international rules, delivered very concrete results. First, because you can identify the presence of a shadow fleet on your coast. Second, because you can make sure that they are compliant with or not with international rules. But third, and it's very important, because you kill the business model by detaining, even for days or weeks, these vessels and forcing them to organize themselves differently and killing the efficiency of the business model. Because this model has been organized even before 22, but is now totally industrialized. And I suggest that in the framework of the coalition of the willing, with close coordination with NATO, we work to see how to optimize this common action. But just to tell you, the vessels we clearly identified, on which we made the checkings, and now we have a legal action, was declared in a fake pavilion, under a fake pavilion, but was exactly the same which was controlled by Estonia last March, for the same reasons. And as we stop them during 1-2 weeks' time, we completely break the efficiency of the organization. So shadow fleet is a very good target if we want to improve our efficiency to reduce these capacities. And I think this is a very important step forward in order to increase our pressure on Russia. Obviously, the objective of that is to allow in parallel Ukraine to recover territories, but as well to increase this pressure on Russia to come back at the table of negotiation. My last point, regarding all the provocations we have in Poland, in Estonia, and I want to reiterate our sincere solidarity, I think we had the fair reaction by Article 4 on NATO, more coordination, and as well additional capacities. We sent some additional Rafales and so on. And it's very important as well to go till the end of the inquiries on what happened in Denmark and for some others, because it's very important to make full clarity. I think the main answer should be more unpredictability and more strategic ambiguity. And I think it's very important to have a clear message. Drones which would violate our territories are just taking a big risk. They can be destroyed, full stop. And we are not here to provide the full notice. We will do what we have to do to preserve our air integrity and our territorial integrity. And for the aircraft, we have a process under the coordination of NATO. And I think this process will create as well more unpredictability. Deterrence should be key to preserve our consistency. But the message which is very important to convey from this meeting is that we are ready and we are in a position to preserve our air and our territorial integrity. We are ready on the eastern flank of NATO, and we are ready at the same time and on top of that, and without reducing this commitment, to provide security guarantees for Ukraine. This is the same approach, and all these approaches are clearly compliant, and it was fairly assessed by the Secretary General of NATO. Thank you, Keir.
Thank you, Emmanuel. And I think this focus on the shadow fleet is so important. We need to intensify that. particularly in light of what's happened in the last few days. So really important. Donald, can I come to you? Because obviously we saw the incursion of drones and the reaction to that. So over to you, really, because if we cannot ignore the fact that over recent weeks and months, there has been, at the very least, an increased appetite for recklessness on behalf of Putin. So, Donald.
Thank you. I will be very brief because I think from my point of view everything is more or less clear when it comes to the whole war context. First of all, again, congratulations. We were very happy together with Manuel and Friedrich to be there just before your election, and we felt how difficult the situation was and still is, of course. But your example, this is a good lesson for all of us, because it means that if you are determined enough, if you are courageous enough, you can win. Also, if you are, small Moldova, you can win against Russia, because it was in fact, the elections in Moldova, not only in Moldova, as you said, but in Moldova it was a very spectacular example. The elections, it is also a part of a very untypical war we live in fact. 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I said that the post-war epoch had ended and that we entered the pre-war epoch. Unfortunately, it is no longer the case, because in fact we are in time of war today. And for me, your lesson, but also what we experience in Poland with all these provocations from the Russians and Belarusians. For me, it means that today it's absolutely obvious that we have to stop all this kind of illusions. The first illusion was and is that there's no war. It's some of us, we like this definition, like full-scale aggression or incidents or provocation. No, it's war. A new type of war, very complex, but it's war. Shadow fleet. Now we have signals. The last one was, I received a message from Warsaw. We have another incident now close to Szczecin port. 2 days ago, it was an incident close to our Petro-Baltic platform and our pipeline. Both are Russian vessels. And in fact, we have a new incident in our region, I mean Baltic Sea, every single week. It's almost every day. We have the drones attack or provocation was the most spectacular one when it comes to the Polish side. But in fact, we have similar provocation also every single day on our border with Belarus. You know this, the situation, but it's nothing abstract. War is not an abstraction now for us, because we have on our border with Belarus, we have more than 100 attempts per day, and it's some kinetic actions against our soldiers on our border with victims also. It's our daily routine now. This permanent confrontation with Belarusian services and this weaponized illegal migration, really well organized by Putin and Lukashenko. It is a kind of war also. Estonia, dozens of violations. This was not the first attempt, I mean, the violations of the external airspace. This is why it is a war. We are also the target for the Russian aggression, not only with the hybrid tools, but also when it comes to political goals, intentions. And it's clear, not only in Moscow, I think that the whole West is under threat. And aggression against Ukraine is just the first phase of this new approach. Second, we can hear in I think all capitals in Europe this narrative. This is okay. If it is war, it is not our war. It is our war. Okay, Ukraine is in the front line now, but in fact we have this aggressive actions, provocations, etc. And all of us are targets, the possible targets for these attacks. Kir, you know this also personally, how strange and how dangerous they can be, also physically, kinetically against us. It is our war, and if Ukraine loses, it means our failure. I have no doubts in a mid-term or long-term perspective. And the third illusion is also very well prepared by Putin's propaganda, is that we are not able to win this war. That it is impossible for Ukraine and for all of us to win this war. It's an absurd. The only advantage, the Russian advantage, the only one is mentality. We are much bigger than them. You know, the GDP of Poland will be comparable to the Russian one of Poland in 2 years. Economically, they have no chance against us. Our population is almost 500 million. Together with UK, have 500 million against 150. We are much richer, technologically, much better prepared. The only Russian advantage is here and here. I mean, they are ready to fight. They are ready to sacrifice something. They are ready to suffer. And the psychological advantage, this is why we are so, sometimes we are so, you know, okay, not decisive enough and not determined enough. And this is why the Moldovan example is so important. It's not only a symbolic one, but also something very practical. If you are determined enough, you can win. And our yesterday discussion about drone wall, about our reactions, should we destroy the Russian objects over Ukraine or in our airspace? I think it's absolutely clear that the most important and the last step in our efforts how to help Ukraine to win this war is more determination. Money is not the problem. I mean, it's always the problem, but compared to, sorry, not the biggest. And this is my appeal. And as I said yesterday, I am not interested in escalation. I am the last one here who is interested in escalation, because we will be the first victim of the war. And for Poland, peace and ceasefire, this is something absolutely the highest priority for us. But we know, not only because of our history, because of geography, but also we know something about the Russian intentions and plans. We know that if they win against Ukraine, it is also in the future the end of my country and of Europe. I have no doubt. And this is why we have to be as determined as Volodymyr and his people and as Maya and her nation. Thank you.
Maya, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your support and for the kind words. The elections we had on September 28th were not simple elections. This was a test for a democracy under attack. Russia spent hundreds of millions of euros in these elections to illegally finance political parties. Well, they've been supporting some political parties for decades, but only in the last 2 years they've created at least 7 new political parties in Moldova. We have it's very easy, as it should be in Moldova, to create a political party. Of course, all these attempts to destabilize the country, all these attempts to hire people on the ground to produce disinformation in addition to what we have been receiving from Moscow. And the lessons that we have learned is that exposure and prevention work. These are the 2 lessons that we have learned, and this is what has helped us. Because we have been exposing, and it's not only the government institutions, but it's also the press, the international press and the local press. For a year, the press has infiltrated, and then later on showed how Russia has been hiring people in Moldova, paying them monthly salaries, teaching them how to create thousands or hundreds of accounts, and then sending them the information that they need to post. This is what was happening, in very big scales. Like the BBC investigation found a network of at least 90 TikTok accounts which produced thousands of videos with 23 million views for a population of 2.4 million people. So we had many such examples, and people could see it and they could understand the threat. And then the prevention, I have to say that after last year's experience, which was very dramatic during the referendum and the presidential elections, our institutions worked really, really well this time. They disrupted all these financial schemes of Russia. They confiscated the money. People who were dealing with this, they got arrested. All those who organized, were trying to organize the vote buying schemes, people could see them on TV. People could see that the money has been confiscated. So the prevention was really, really useful. It is not easy because Russia is using cryptocurrency more and more, and this is where we need to work together to stop the illicit funding, and especially when it comes to cryptocurrency. But Russia had 2 objectives for these elections. One was to capture Moldova through, this was the maximalistic objective, to capture Moldova through these elections, or at least to destabilize the country and to discredit the results. And it has failed because both the state institutions worked very hard, but also it was a whole of society response. And of course, I'm very grateful for your support. The support on intelligence sharing was very useful. Many people, many countries in this room helped us. The cyber defense, we were in a very difficult situation with cyber defense. We managed to fix it 2 days before the election. So we had only 2 days to test it. It was that dramatic. We have learned our lesson. Now we have to work very hard to make sure that we don't get in this situation anymore. Of course, the economic support that we have received, because Moldova's economic situation is not good. The economy is affected by the war next door. The political solidarity that you have shown, all these things, the support for Stratcom, all these things have helped a lot. We have learned a lot of lessons. We're ready to share them with all the countries which are concerned that the elections might be under threat because of Russia. But also we hope that our experience is going to encourage other countries, because a small and fragile democracy like the Moldovan one has resisted the big resources of Russia, and if Moldova could do it, then everybody can do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.